This meeting is being recorded.
There's a lot of misconceptions about credit scores. Is a credit score some magic number? Does it just go up and down however it feels like? Is there some formula? Is there some magic? Is credit score just made up by FICO, the Fair Credit or Fair Isaac Corporation, and that's it? Um, Fair Isaac doesn't actually disclose exactly how they calculate the credit score, but they have given us an idea of the 5 factors of how a credit score is calculated. And so I'm going to go through that today in depth because at the end of the day, we cannot control the credit score. We can do things to improve our credit, but it's impossible for me to tell someone, hey, pay down your credit cards and your credit score will increase by this many points. Or, hey, let's remove these late payments and your credit score will increase by this many points. I really don't know. There's only things that we can influence. And so one of my major philosophies that I live by and really try to embody is don't worry about things that you can't control. Only focus on the things that you can control. Like, for example, let's just say someone's stressed out about being short and they're not tall enough and they're, self-conscious about it. They have, insecurities. It's like, bro, you really can't change how tall you are. So let's just focus on what you can control. You know, how in shape are you? What do your looks look like? What do your hygiene look like? Those are things that you can control. So basically, with the credit score, we can't control, but the credit report we can. So there's 5 factors that make up your credit. And I'm going to go through those today, along with this document that you'll have access to on how to increase your credit score. So every single one of my credit repair clients, I send this document to, so they can start building their credit while we're working on removing the negative items. So basically, all of these percentages here add up to 100%. So the only way that you can change your credit score is by impacting one or more of these factors. And so we can only influence the score. Like I said, we don't know how much it's going to change, but the minimum credit score is 300. I've seen like a 370 before, I think is the lowest score that I've ever seen. And then the highest is 850. There are some people that have 850 credit scores. And so the number one biggest factor of your credit is your payment history, which makes up 35%. And so, whenever you do the math, 300 to 850, 35% of that range, let's see, that's 550 points is the total swing between what it could be. So 192.5 points is the difference that 35% can make. So let's say your payment history is 0 and then you get it to 100%. It does have the potential to possibly increase 192 points, which a lot of people would kill just to get a 100-point increase. So whenever someone is, wanting to improve their credit, the number one focus is payment history, which I'll get into in a minute. Next is utilization. And I'll get into what that means. But the max is 165-point difference is the potential. And that makes up 30% of your credit score. Then there's the credit age, which is 75 points, which makes up 15% of your credit score. And then the last two are credit mix and new credit, which each make up 10%, which is 55 points each. So I have these weighted in what most should be focusing on. So if you're wanting to improve your credit, it's payment history, utilization, and credit age. I'll talk about credit mix and new credit. They kind of fall into line if you're doing things correctly in the first place. So really it's top 3 that you'd want to focus on. And so with payment history, there's only 2 ways to improve payment history. Either adding more positive payment history or removing the negative payment history. And of course, for the quickest results, you want to do both at the same time. So whenever someone wants to ask me, they ask me, hey, how do I improve my credit? Or, what do I want to do? Step number one for every single person that wants to boost their credit is to remove negative items. Step two is to build more positive payment history. That's going to make the biggest difference in that factor. So I'm not going to talk about credit repair in this document, in this video. It's all about building credit. And so, for example, adding positive payment history is adding new accounts, but also treating the accounts that you have correctly already. So the best example I love of this is if you have only one credit card on your credit. Let's say you don't have any other loans, any other credit cards. You only have one credit card. You have the opportunity to get 12 on-time payments in a year because the payment history reports every month. Versus if you have 10 accounts on your credit, mixture of loans, credit cards, you have the opportunity to get 120 on-time payments every single year. So which one do you think is going to be better for you? It's 120 every single time because credit is just trust. We want to show the banks that we're responsible with money. And the more accounts that you can show that you're responsible with, the better, because it shows them, oh, this person can juggle multiple different payments. So one of the easiest ways to add payment history is to add a trade line. Add an authorized user from someone else's credit card. Basically, their credit history now reports on your credit report, which I'll talk about in the credit age section. But the credit age and the payment history and the utilization all report on your credit. So this will come up multiple times. That's one. Another one is, an unsecured credit card. So you could just open up another credit card and start building more positive payment history. For example, in the past 6 months, I opened up a Bilt credit card, BILT, which is with Wells Fargo Bank. Bilt allows me to pay my rent with a credit card so I can get rewards points on it. So since my credit was good already, I had low utilization, I didn't have a bunch of inquiries, I had no late payments, no collections. I applied for it and they approved me for it. So now I have an extra account on my credit that can build positive payment history. Now, if someone has bad credit, then they'll want to do a secured loan or a secured credit card. So basically, secured just means that they have some sort of asset, some sort of collateral in case you mess up. Unsecured, they just give you money based off your credit score and based off your signature, just trusting that you're responsible. But if you have bad credit, you can't prove that you're responsible. You just have to put some money in your pocket. So I'm not going to go through secured credit cards on this video necessarily. I'm going to save it for a separate one. But in general is you want to add more accounts. If you have good credit, you can add unsecured credit cards. I think is one of the best things to do. If you have bad credit, one of the best things to do is open secured credit cards or secured loans. It is better to work with a bank because banks like to see that you're working with other banks. This next option I'm going to go to is still good. Just working with banks is better. Now, the other option, especially if you have bad credit, but even people with good credit, I recommend to get Magnum by Credit Strong. But there's a bunch of different ones. I listed some here on this document that either me or my clients have used and saw good results from. Essentially, a credit builder account is a company that you pay a certain amount every month, and they report on your credit report as if you have a credit card, a loan, or a line of credit with them. You have some sort of account. But they don't actually give you money. For example, on Magnum, you can get a loan on your credit for up to $30,000 reported on your credit report, but they don't actually give you any money. You just pay them every month. They take their small fee, Majority of it goes into like a savings account, and then you get your money back at the end of it. I believe Kickoff works that way as well. Not every account gives you your money back, so just read the fine print. But basically, with those, they don't check your credit. And so, even if you have bad credit or no credit, you could start building with that. And, now you just added another account. Now you do have to pay for it. So, with these, especially, you have to invest into your credit, but it is a worthwhile investment. That's payment history. Remove negative items, add positive. Now, utilization is calculated by taking the total amount of credit you have and seeing how much you're using. So let's say you have 5 different credit cards, right? Each of them have a $2,000 credit limit. I'm just doing this for simple math. So that means you have a total available credit of $10,000. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I need to keep it under 30%. So that means that I can't use more than $600 on one credit card. That's not exactly how it's calculated. It's not calculated from each card utilization. It's the total. So your total available credit is 10,000. So you could spend $1,000 on 3 of those 5 credit cards, and then your total credit use, the amount of credit that you're currently using is 3,000, which means you have a utilization of 30%. Because you're using 30% of your total available credit. Now, the reason I use 30% is once your utilization goes over 30%, it starts to drop your credit score and you look risky for banks who are considering your application. Now, I would recommend keeping it at 10% or less, but you could go up to 30 before it really starts impacting your credit. Now, there's only a few ways to lower your utilization, because the goal isn't to increase it. The goal is to lower it, which will increase your credit score. Now, disclaimer, the good thing about utilization is even though it drops your credit score, you don't need credit repair for utilization, which is cool. So if you did get in a tight situation, you had an emergency, and you did max out your credit cards, or you did, increase your utilization, your score is going to go down. And then once you fix the utilization, it's going to go right back up. So it doesn't have any negative items on your credit. So that is the good part about utilization. The other part of it is whenever you do apply for something, let's say you've had a 90% utilization for the past 6 months, you just paid it down to 0 or 9%, whatever. That next month you go to apply for a credit card, they have what's called a look back period where they can look back on your credit report and see, oh, like Ryan's not fooling us. He's had almost maxed out credit cards for months, and now he thinks he can just pay it off and then go and get new credit. Nope, declined. So they have a look back period. So I don't ever recommend just maxing out your credit cards. We'll get into on a different video on like how the utilization is reported to the credit bureaus, but there's only a few ways to do this. So number one, just pay down the debt. Like that's the easiest one. Just pay down the debt. If you have the money, pay it down. Sometimes I talk to people, they have high balances on their credit cards and they have the money sitting in the bank. Like just bite the bullet, just pay it off. Now there's 2 very effective methods to paying down your credit card debt. There's the avalanche method, and then there's the snowball method. And believe it or not, I actually learned snowball from Dave Ramsey. Even though we have very different views on credit, he is a smart guy and knows how to help people get out of debt. So the snowball method and the avalanche method are similar, but there's one key difference. So the similarity is you always make the minimum payment on every single credit card. So you have 5 credit cards, you're going to make the minimum payment on all of them every single month, because that avoids you having a late payment. So you're always making the minimum payment. The difference between the two is which one you choose to throw extra money at. So you're making the minimum on all of them. You're getting charged interest. If you just pay the minimum, it'll take years, maybe even decades to pay it off. So you always want to pay more than the minimum, or you're never going to get out of debt. But as far as these two methods, you make the minimum on all the cards, and then you focus on one card at a time to start paying off. So in the snowball method, you pick the card with the lowest balance, and you throw extra money towards that. So whatever your budget allows for you to spend on paying off your credit cards every month, you'll make the minimum on all of them, and then whatever's left over, you put towards the smallest card. So that way you can knock out that balance quickly. Now, that extra, let's say you're able to throw an extra $300 on it, for example. Now you're making the minimum payments on all of them. You have this minimum payment with the smallest card, say it's $500, for example. Now you throw an extra 300 at it. The following month, you should pay that off. Now, that minimum payment, let's say, for example, it's $20. Now that $20 goes into this 300. So now you have $320 a month that you can pay on top of the minimum payment for the next card. Hopefully that made sense. You have a certain amount that you can pay each month, and after you pay a credit card off, the minimum payment for that card now gets added in to the snowball that you're rolling over. So with that, you start with the lowest balance, build your way up to the highest balance in order. That's how to get your debt paid off the quickest and build the most confidence. That's for certain types of people. The avalanche method is the same, except instead of the lowest balance, you start paying off the highest interest rate. That's how you save the most money on paying down your debt, because different credit cards have different interest rates. That one you pay off the highest interest rate first, and then the second highest, and then the third highest, all the way down to the lowest interest rate at the end. So that's two ways to pay off your debt. The other one is not paying off the debt, but it's restructuring it. So there's two different types of accounts on your credit report. There's revolving, and then there's installment. So revolving is credit cards, it's lines of credit. That's where your utilization is calculated from. But if you have an auto loan, for example, that doesn't affect your utilization because that's an installment account. There's a lump sum of money and you make installment payments every month. And then once it's paid off, it's done, it's over. Versus revolving stays open, it's a revolving door. So you can get what's called a debt consolidation loan, where they give you a loan, which is an installment account, to pay off your credit cards. So now you just move the debt from your credit cards over into an installment account. Now your credit cards are paid off, which lowers your utilization. So it's not paying off your debt right away, but it's restructuring it to where it does not affect your utilization. Now, I do want to be very clear. Be cautious that you're getting a debt consolidation loan and not signing up for a debt consolidation program. Very different things. And then to help with utilization, you don't want debt settlement either. They all sound similar, but they're completely different. The only one that helps you out with debt consolidation, the only one that helps you out with utilization is a debt consolidation loan. So just want to make that very clear. And then here I have several links to websites that my clients have used before to get debt consolidation loans. All of these are a pre-approval, so you or your client can go in there and see, hey, do they pre-approve me for a loan without impacting their credit? So I recommend checking all of those if that's the route you want to take. The third way is to get an authorized user. So I'm going to break down authorized users more in the next section. But remember, their credit limit, their utilization, their payment history, and their age now reflect on your credit report. So if you have, I'll use the $10,000 example. $10,000 is your total available credit. You have a balance of $3,000. So you're at a 30% utilization, right? If someone adds you on as an authorized user to a credit card that has a $10,000 limit on that one card and a zero balance, you just took your total available credit from 10,000 to 20,000. So you doubled your available credit. Your balances stay the same. So instead of 3,000 being 30% of 10,000, 3,000 is only 15% of 20,000. So that lowered your utilization without having to restructure the debt or pay anything. So that's utilization. Those are the two biggest factors on your credit. And then the next one is credit age. Credit age. So credit age is how much history you have on your credit. So it's the average age of all of your open accounts. So the example I have here is if you only have 2 accounts on your credit, they've both been open for 1 year, then your credit age is 6 months. It's 1 year plus 1 year divided by 2. And so basically it's the average, it's the median. So the older your credit age, the better. Typically, you would want your credit age to be 2 years plus. Sorry, I just took that. 2 divided by 2 is actually 1. So your age would be 1 year, not 6 months. My apologies. So as far as the age, here are things that will decrease your credit age. So these are what to look out for, and then I'll show you how to improve it. So anytime you pay off an installment loan, so I don't know if you've ever heard somebody, or maybe you've experienced yourself, you paid off your car and then your credit score dropped. I've had someone tell me before, hey, I paid off my car and then my credit score dropped. Credit's whack. Like, I'm giving up on credit. This doesn't make any sense. I thought that was supposed to help my credit, Ryan. It does help your credit report because now the lenders see, oh, Ryan's responsible. He paid off an auto loan with no late payments. That's amazing. But remember, installment accounts don't stay open forever. So while the account is there, say you get a 36-month loan, for your car, during that 36 months, it's building up credit age for you. That's how long the account has been open. But once you pay it off, the account is closed. Once an account is closed, it loses the credit age associated with it. So remember, credit age is 15%, which makes up to 75 points of your credit. So someone's credit could drop 10, 20, 30 points, 50 points, for example, once a loan is paid off. Now, that could be a car, a personal loan, a mortgage, any type of installment account. Once it's paid, you lose the age. Now, also closing an open credit card. So if you have a credit card that's been open for a while, and say they're charging you an annual fee, say you're just tired of credit, oh, I don't use that card anymore, I might as well close it, that's going to hurt your credit age, because now once it's closed, you lost all the age associated with it. Like, I have a Capital One credit card. I never use it. I put like one transaction on it every few months just to make sure they don't close it. But I don't really use it, and I will never close it because it was my first credit card. And so it has the oldest credit age on my report outside of an authorized user, which I'll get to in a minute. So yeah, closing an open credit card will hurt your credit age, and then also adding new accounts. So remember, it's a median. So say you've had a few accounts that have been open for a year, and then you open a new account. Well, that account has only been open for 1 month once it hits your credit report. So now that brings down your total average age. Which the other way, the only way to really increase your age is to keep your accounts open. It's just the slow but steady, turtle wins the race. The only way to really speed up that process is to get added as an authorized user by someone else. Someone else adds you on their credit card. So that's the only way to manufacture your age. So I'll use my example personally. I had my girlfriend's dad add me on his credit card that has been open for 37 years. So my credit age went from 1 year, 3 months to an average age of 5 years and 8 months. And it only took like 45 days for that authorized user to hit my credit. So my age automatically, 5x'd almost because of that. So his 37 years of age of payment history is now on my credit report, and I'm not even 37 years old, so there's no way that I could have that type of age. The only way is from an authorized user. Now on this spreadsheet, on this document, I have a trade line explanation. I have where you can order your credit report here, how you can plug in on this spreadsheet to actually find out your credit age or find it out for your client. And then there's even a video on there on how to use that calculator. So the authorized user can help all three of the first factors. Now, the only thing to be cautious of is, I took a look at my girlfriend's dad's credit before we did this. I wanted to make sure he had no late payments, made sure he, kept the utilization low, because if he has high utilization, now that reports on my credit. If he would have had late payments, now that reports on my credit. So it is very important to make sure you're getting a good account. And this credit age calculator will let you know how old of an authorized user that you need. Now, I always recommend getting one for free from friends, families, mentors, if you can find them. If you cannot find them, there is a way to buy them or rent them, which I can help you with. Just let me know. But it would be a last resort. I would much, much prefer to teach you how to go fish. But not everybody can. Not everybody has the connections. I'm very thankful and blessed that, my girlfriend's dad was able to do that. Maybe by the time you watch this video, she'll be my fiance or my wife. Who knows? So that is credit age and authorized users. Then there's credit mix, which makes up 10% or 55 points. So your credit mix just shows how responsible you are with different types of debt. Remember, I explained there's installment and revolving accounts. So if you only have credit cards, but you don't have any loans, you haven't shown on your credit report that you're responsible with a loan payment. So you don't have a good credit mix. So this is something to keep in mind as you're building your credit. This is one that you'll kind of accomplish along the way. It's not a main focus. Payment history, utilization, credit age are the main focus. This one kind of happens along the way. You just want to make sure you're not getting only credit cards or you're not getting only loans. Having a good credit mix will help your credit score. Now, new credit is the other one, which is basically your hard inquiries. Every time you apply for financing, you're going to get a hard inquiry on your credit. Now, anytime you get pre-approved or anytime you look at your own credit, it's a soft inquiry, which does not impact your credit at all. You can check your credit every single day, multiple times a day, no issues. You can get pre-approved, pre-qualified for a lot of different things, no inquiry. Once you actually submit an application, whether you get approved or you get denied, that's whenever you get a hard inquiry. So a hard inquiry may lower your score by a couple points. So for new credit, you just want to make sure that if you're applying for something, all the other factors are in line, so you're pretty confident that you're going to get approved. Now, if you just aimlessly apply for everything under the sun without a strategy, that's how your inquiries can get out of hand. Or maybe if you go to the dealership and they pull your credit 25 times, sending it around to different banks, I recommend getting pre-approved for a car before you go to the dealership. That way you only get one hard inquiry instead of letting them, shoot your credit around everywhere. Now, if you have too many hard inquiries, then we can help you remove those through the credit repair process. So in general, that's the 5 factors of credit, how to improve them, just very basic underlying of how everything